Not everyone deserves your kindness. As you grow older, you'll realize the more kind you are to certain people, the more drained you become. They don't need help. They need someone to serve them. It's time to identify 5 types of people you should stop being kind to, starting today. The constant taker. You can easily spot them by the timing of their appearances, right when they need you. It might be a rushed ride, a temporary loan, or long phone calls where they only talk about their own problems. But when you need a birthday wish, a check-in during illness, or simply someone to listen, they disappear. The story of Ms. Gloria, 71, is a very real example. She spent her whole life helping others, babysitting her grandchildren, taking neighbors to doctor appointments, and sharing every penny of her pension with friends in need. Yet during the most important and lonely moments of her life, hardly anyone remembered she even existed. No gifts, no questions, no check-ins. Those who once received her help were too busy or simply forgot. Deeper analysis. Why is this type so common? Sadly, constant takers are becoming more common in today's world, where people connect quickly but shallowly. Many grow up never learning gratitude or how to care about others. They see your help as something automatic, even a duty. Sometimes your own kindness becomes a trap, making them believe you'll always be there no matter how they treat you. They're not obviously bad people, but their repeated indifference can hurt you deeply. Emotional consequences. When you're always the giver. If you stay in these one-sided relationships, you'll end up emotionally and mentally drained, losing faith in others and in yourself. You start closing off, becoming suspicious, even of those who truly want to help. Worse still, you might blame yourself for being too kind, instead of realizing that they were the ones who didn't appreciate it. Personal insight. Kindness doesn't mean letting others use you. Kindness is a noble trait, but it should not be confused with self-sacrifice. Saying no doesn't make you cold. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It means you understand that kindness needs limits and should be given to those who will value it. No one is obligated to keep giving endlessly to people who never look back. That's not love. That's waste. Profound message. If someone only shows up in your life when they need something, chances are you're not someone they care about, just a means to an end. Be wise enough to see that, strong enough to set limits, and love yourself enough to give your time, kindness, and energy to those who truly deserve it. Because at a certain age, life is no longer about proving how good you are to people who don't value you. It's about protecting your inner peace and saving your best for those truly worth keeping. The ones who constantly judge others, quietly but deeply wounding. They don't need to yell or lash out. A cold glance, a half smile, or what seems like an innocent comment is enough to make you feel like you're never good enough. With this type of person, judgment doesn't have to be loud. Silence itself can become a sharp weapon. Mr. Raymond, 82, is a kind man who has lived a life full of compassion. Despite his age and weakness, he still visits family every week, bringing homemade bread and a few kind words. But in return, what he gets is not gratitude but indifference, accompanied by subtle, biting remarks. "The bread's a bit tough this time," or "You haven't cleaned your yard yet? Looks messy." Small comments, yes. But over the years, they gradually wore down a heart that once overflowed with love. The nature of passive judgment. Judgment isn't always born from clear malice. Sometimes it hides behind words like, just giving feedback, I care, or I'm being honest. But the danger lies in this. Those words don't build up. They make others question themselves. Over time, you begin to doubt your own worth, even when you used to feel completely confident. This is a silent kind of damage. It leaves no mark on your body, but creates cracks in your self-trust. And scarier still, it often comes from the people closest to you, relatives, lifelong friends, or those you're always trying to please. Psychological impact. The subtle erosion caused by constant criticism. When you live in an environment where someone always points out your flaws, even the smallest, you start developing a quiet kind of anxiety. Every time you do something, your thought won't be, does this make me happy? But instead, what will they say about it? What will they criticize this time? Eventually, this leads you to shrink yourself, suppress emotions, and slowly lose your true self. All just to avoid being judged. That's a steep price to pay for a relationship that only appears close on the surface. Personal insight. Kindness doesn't mean being a target for criticism. Kindness should not come with the burden of enduring hurtful words, even if they're softly spoken. You have every right to protect your emotional space and to walk away from relationships that make you feel small. Kindness shouldn't turn you into an emotional trash bin, a place for others to dump negativity while you stay silent to avoid upsetting anyone. Remember, one kind word can lift someone's spirit for days, but one subtle jab can leave a trace of self-doubt that lasts for years. Core message. You don't have to keep being kind to people who always make you feel like you're not enough. If a relationship slowly chips away at your self-worth, no matter how close it seems, you have every right to step back and create distance. True connection comes not from criticism, but from support and understanding. At a certain point in life, you'll realize mental peace is far more precious than clinging to a relationship that constantly makes you feel like you have to try harder than you should. Those who manipulate emotions through guilt. They don't need to raise their voice or blame you outright. Just a few loaded remarks, a couple of soft-spoken comments that seem harmless, and you already feel hesitant, guilty, and questioning yourself. This is the kind of person who doesn't shout, "Why weren't you here?" but quietly says, "I thought family wouldn't abandon each other at a time like this." And suddenly, your heart sinks. Mrs. Margaret, 79, was once a strong woman who lived her entire life for her children and grandchildren. But as old age and health no longer allowed her to do everything like before, her own grandchild began using suggestive words to make her feel guilty simply because she couldn't babysit all week or cook every day like she used to. Instead of understanding her situation, they turned her exhaustion into a reason to criticize her for being less caring and not like she used to be. The phenomenon of emotional manipulation, when kindness becomes a weakness. Emotional manipulators rarely attack directly. They are clever and subtle, using your own sensitivity and kindness as tools to control you. They plant questions that make you uneasy. I wonder if Grandma was sad when I went out with friends without stopping by. Or, if Grandpa were still alive, he'd be heartbroken to see the family drifting apart. The problem is, they don't demand. They make you want to comply, not out of love, but out of fear of being in the wrong. Internal impact, an endless sense of indebtedness. Once you fall into this loop, you'll always feel like you haven't done enough. No matter how hard you try, their satisfaction remains out of reach. Guilt sticks to you like a shadow, making you forget that you too are human, with limits in strength, time, and emotional capacity. Living in constant guilt doesn't just drain you, it steals your joy for life. You're always on edge, trying to hold everything together, even when it no longer matches your real abilities or needs. Personal insight. Setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. True love never stems from blame or emotional pressure. If someone only expresses disappointment whenever you choose to take care of yourself, that's not love. That's emotional possession. A healthy relationship must be built on mutual understanding and respect, not fear of being labeled uncaring. Protecting your time, health, and peace of mind is not selfish. It's what allows you to continue being kind and present for those who truly need you, in the right way, at the right time, with a full and open heart. Lasting message. Real love doesn't make you feel guilty when you need to rest. Kindness shouldn't be used to pull you into relationships that drain your energy. You have the right to step back, set limits, and say no to emotional manipulation, even when it comes from those you love most. At some point, you'll realize your greatest responsibility isn't to keep everyone happy. It's to make sure you don't lose yourself in the sea of expectations. Those who manipulate emotions through guilt. Not everyone who seems happy for your success truly wants it for you. Some people never openly oppose you, but they quietly compete through half-hearted compliments, fake encouragement, or remarks that leave you unsure whether you've been praised or belittled. Mrs. Helen, 76, is a lover of painting who joined an art class for seniors as a way to find joy and connection. She used to feel excited about every piece she completed, but ever since she grew close to a classmate, someone who always smiled and praised her, but would add, "Nice, but it looks like a child's painting," her confidence began to shake. Each painting she made afterward came with an invisible fear. Will people think I'm not good enough? The nature of silent competition, a wordless race that still hurts. Unlike open rivalry, where everyone knows they're in a contest, silent competition is dangerous because it happens quietly, is hard to detect, and often comes from those you think are close to you. They could be a peer who always brags about their children's success, a neighbor who constantly compares homes, or a family member who accidentally puts you down. These people often mask their jealousy with friendliness, making you slowly doubt your own accomplishments. Mental impact. When your confidence gets slowly drained. What's scary is that silent competition doesn't hurt you right away. It seeps in slowly, but deeply. Each subtle jab makes you more guarded. You stop sharing your joy, feel shy about your achievements, and gradually limit yourself. You no longer create out of passion, but out of fear of being compared or diminished again. Over time, you lose the innocence of someone living true to their interests and values. Personal insight. Being mature enough to no longer compete. At a certain age, you'll realize you don't need to compete with anyone to prove your worth. You don't need to be better. You just need to do what brings you peace. Real friends will never make you feel lesser. They'll celebrate what's yours, even if it's not flashy or outstanding. And more importantly, you don't have to maintain any relationship that keeps you on edge or forces you to hold back so you don't make them jealous. Deep message. True friendship is a space where you can be yourself without having to prove anything, without fear of comparison, without worry of mockery. At this age, you deserve relationships that make you feel light and supported, not trapped in a hidden race for approval from someone who isn't sincere. And if someone makes you shrink every time you do what you love, then maybe it's time to leave them behind, so your life can be filled only with people who make you feel confident, free, and whole. Those who manipulate emotions passively. Not everyone who hurts you needs to raise their voice. Some people choose a different path. Silence when you need answers. Sarcasm when you ask for help, or just a forced smile paired with what sounds like a joke, but cuts deep inside. Mr. Harold, 83, simply wanted to ask his young neighbor to help move a heavy plant pot out to the yard. Instead of a direct response or a polite refusal, he got a half-joking remark. "I'd like to keep these knees intact for a few more years." Behind the smile was a dismissive rejection that left Mr. Harold quietly dragging the pot himself and never asking anyone for help again. Passive manipulation, when hurt comes from where you least expect. Passive manipulators don't control you by directing your actions. They do it by making you hesitate to act. They don't say you're wrong, but they make you feel guilty. They don't oppose you outright, but they create an atmosphere where you feel like a burden. And over time, you learn not to ask, not to request, and not to share anymore. This type of manipulation is dangerous because it doesn't make you angry. It makes you blame yourself. You think, "Did I bother them? Am I too weak? Maybe I shouldn't ask again." Profound impact. When self-worth drains without anyone noticing. Passive manipulation makes you withdraw, not because you no longer want connection, but because you fear being rejected in a cold, subtle way. You learn to endure in silence, to handle everything alone even when your body can't keep up, just to avoid hearing words that make you feel like a burden. Over time, you're not just lonely, you trap yourself in frightening silence. That's not self-reliance. That's the result of emotional manipulation that's gone on for too long. Personal insight. The right to peace shouldn't have to be begged for. Everyone has the right to receive help, to be understood, and to live in an environment free from sarcastic remarks disguised as jokes. You don't have to please everyone at the cost of abandoning yourself. Peace isn't a gift others give you. It's a boundary you create to protect your dignity and emotional balance. Saying no to a passive manipulator doesn't make you a bad person. It's your way of saying, "I respect myself enough not to endure coldness masked as humor anymore." Message to remember. Kindness should not come with the fear of mockery. No one has the right to make you feel like a burden just because you asked for help. Those seemingly harmless but suggestive comments, if repeated enough, will steal your confidence and make you forget your own worth. At this age, there's no more time for relationships that silence you out of fear of being belittled. You deserve a world where you can speak up, not to be pitied, but to be respected as a whole and worthy human being. Ask yourself, is there anyone among these 5 types of people sitting too close in your life? Is there someone draining your energy without giving anything positive in return? You've forgiven too much, stayed silent too long just to keep the peace. But the later years are not for enduring. They're for healing and carefully choosing your companions. You deserve relationships that nourish your soul, not drain it. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say enough and walk away.